Hello BookTube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to Words in Time. Now in today's video, I'm going to be revealing my top 10 relationships in sci-fi. And just two quick notes. Firstly, there will be romantic relationships here, but there will also be friendships and other kinds of relationships on the list. And secondly, this is a spoiler-free video, so I will have to hint at some potential romance or friendships, but I won't be going into any details. I'm more just going to be talking about why, conceptually, I think these are interesting pairings. So let's get into it with number 10. At number 10, we have Barry and Helena from Recursion. And Barry is a New York City cop and Helena is a neuroscientist. And in part what brings them together is that they are both connected to or interested in something called false memory syndrome. And I think what is a unique aspect of their relationship is this story has things to do with timelines, time loops, time travel, and so the way that that plays out I think is really, really interesting and unique, and something that had me interested and invested in their relationship. At number 9, we have Braun and Martin from the Hyperion Cantos. Now, this is a bit of an odd couple. They're an interesting pairing because Braun, she is a detective. So it's set in the future, a bit of a cyberpunk setting. So she's a cyberpunk detective and she's very tough and she's very serious. Whereas Martin, he is a poet. He is a writer. He likes to drink. He likes to get under people's skin. He curses a lot. Doesn't take anything seriously and is constantly irritating Braun. And so to see them go back and forth is really interesting and rewarding, and I really enjoyed seeing how that played out and progressed in Hyperion. At number 8, we have Tyler, Jason, and Diane from Spin. Now, I know what you're thinking, this is not a love triangle, okay? If you haven't read the book, Jason and Diane are twins and Tyler is one of their best friends. So something that I like about this relationship, this friendship, is that we get to see it progress over multiple timelines. So we get to see how they interact as teenagers and also as adults. And the premise for Spin is, what if one day all of the stars disappeared? So we have this interesting mystery that they're all connected to and they have very different perspectives. Jason is very much a scientist and Diane is very religious, and Tyler kind of has to react and go between the two as they try to solve this mystery. So wonderful dynamics in a very interesting story involving those three characters. At number 7, we have Darrow and Severo from Red Rising. Now, Darrow, he is our main character. The story is told from his POV, and he's a very strong character, very smart character. Doesn't always make the right decisions, but he's filled with a lot of passion, a lot of rage. And then Severo, he's quite a different character. He's a bit of a lone wolf. He's kind of weird, doesn't really trust people, but once he gets to know them, once he decides you're worthy of it, he's very, very loyal. So we have two strong personalities here, and seeing how they interact, I thought was definitely one of the most engaging parts of Red Rising. I think the characters and the relationships really stand out, and I could have gone with a couple of different ones, but Darrow and Severo has to be my personal favorite. At number 6, we have Peter and Valentine from Ender's Game. Now, it might be a bit of an odd choice not to include Ender Wiggin from Ender's Game, and I do love Ender as a character, but I was really fascinated by this relationship between Peter and Valentine that are brother and sister. They're a bit of an odd couple, somewhat similar to Martin and Braun from Hyperion, but Martin's kind of an unlikable but still likable character, whereas Peter is not likable. Peter is kind of a sociopath and a bully, whereas Valentine is just as smart as Peter, but much more empathetic. So I thought it was really interesting to see how these two work together as brother and sister while still being very distrusting of each other. So Ender's Game, a great book with a lot of great aspects. One of my favorites was Peter and Valentine. At number 5, we have Mandela and Potter from The Forever War. Now, in The Forever War, we are experiencing the harsh realities of war. It's very dark, it's very violent, and in amongst that, the ability to find any sort of connection, I think, is really important to the characters in the story, and I think it means a lot to us, the readers, too. So, something interesting about Mandela and Potter's relationship, as well as being set against the backdrop of the war, is the issue of time dilation. So, because of spaceships, as they travel closer towards the speed of light, people can experience time at different rates, and so getting separated can have large consequences. So the way the narrative plays out, I think, was really emotionally impactful and was one of the aspects that I think was most well done in the classic, The Forever War. At number 4, we have Mahit and 3 Seagrass from Teixcalan. So Mahit is a fish out of water. She travels from the independent station of Lascelles to the Empire of Teixcalan, where 3 Seagrass is from. And so seeing the cultural differences between the two, I think, is really fascinating, and there's also political motivations and things at stake as well. So are they really forming a friendship? Are they really helping each other out? Or are they actually enemies in a political game? And do they develop something more than that between the two of them? And both characters are just so smart and so witty. I really enjoyed the dialogue between them, and as a reader trying to figure out the shifting priorities, elements, all the pieces on the board, I think was really rewarding, and I think they explore some pretty deep themes as well. So very much enjoyed those two in Teixcalan. At number 3, we have Charlie and Alice from Flowers for Algernon. So I think what makes this relationship interesting is that Alice is initially a caretaker for Charlie, a man that suffers from mental disabilities. He has a very low IQ, but as he undergoes an experimental surgery to increase his IQ, their relationship changes because as he becomes more intelligent, he's able to interact with her on a different level, but unfortunately his emotional intelligence doesn't keep up. So we have this changing dynamic between the two as Charlie goes on this journey, and I think Charlie and Alice are a big reason of why this is an absolutely emotionally devastating classic. At number 2, we have Hadrian and Valka from Sun Eater. Now, similar to Mahit and 3 Seagrass, these two characters definitely have cultural differences. Hadrian is from within the Solan Empire, whereas Valka is not. She is Tavrosi. So when it comes to discussions about aliens or culture, religion, technology, they have very different perspectives and they are always challenging each other. And I think in doing so, they also push and challenge the reader, because even if I agree with one, I can always see the logic or the place from which one of these characters is coming from. So I always enjoy those discussions. Even if there's not a lot of action, I enjoy listening to the dialogue between the two. And another interesting element of their relationship is the span of time over which it takes place, because these characters, due to technology in the future, live a lot longer than probably you or I will. So to see the effect that that has on a relationship, I found to be really, really interesting. And lastly, at number 1, we have Campion and Purslane from House of Suns. So why do I find this relationship to be so interesting? Well, these two characters, rather than having cultural differences, in fact, it's kind of the opposite. They are actually clones. So Abigail Gentian, she cloned herself 999 times, so there were what are referred to as shatterlings, 1,000 of these shatterlings, although some of them are male and some of them are female. Now, these shatterlings can live for millions of years. The story jumps forward in time about 6 million years from where we start in the book, and these shatterlings get together in a reunion around every 200,000 years, and they are supposed to be exploring the universe and coming back to share what they have learned. And it is a bit frowned upon for these shatterlings to travel and be together. So Campion and Purslane are somewhat breaking the rules of the Gentian line. So to see clones interact with each other and see the little differences that form just through hundreds of thousands of years of experiences, I found to be incredibly interesting. I thought that was such a brilliant idea. And another aspect of this relationship that I really enjoyed was seeing them travel, because the scale of which this book takes place is awesome. There is a chase scene between spaceships that takes place over tens of thousands of years. So the feeling that you get of, even though the book's only around 500 pages, I feel like I've traveled with these characters for infinite amounts of time. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. So very much invested in those two characters, and I think the way it plays out is absolutely fantastic. One of the reasons why House of Suns is one of my favorite books. So those are my top 10 relationships. What are some of your favorites? Get down in the comments and let me know. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe, and you can check out more sci-fi content over here.